Hey there, Magic fans. Barry White, Magic Untapped, and with me to talk about a cool set coming up called Time Spiral Remastered is Gavin Verhey from Wizards of the Coast. Gavin, good afternoon. How are you?
I am doing great. And honestly, I could not be more excited. I'm in the middle of a set that I've thought about for a long time that's doing a lot of cool new things. And Time Spiral is one of my favorite blocks in Magic's history. So it's a lot of stuff that I love from the past with a little bit of something a little bit new, a little bit old fused together. We'll get into that in a second. But there's a lot here that I really like. And I'm just super stoked to be able to talk about it.
Full disclosure, Time Spiral, also one of my favorite blocks, specifically Time Spiral the set, probably one of my top 5, top 8 sets in all of Magic the Gathering to begin with. Then again, my favorite is Fallen Empire, so I don't really know if my opinion on that is really worth much, but I do love Time Spiral as well. So let's just talk about that. So later this month, Wizards of the Coast is releasing the new Time Spiral Remastered set, obviously referring to this Time Spiral block from '06 and '07. On the surface, Gavin, what can you say about the set?
Yeah, well, so what we did is we looked back at Time Spiral block and we took all three sets, which is Time Spiral, Planar Chaos, and Future Sight, and we distilled them down to like the best pieces and put them into one set. And so it's built for drafting. We kind of cut out the chaff around the side, and it's really built for drafting and also full of all kinds of cool reprints you might want. In addition, on top of those, classic Time Spiral reprints, we did something very cool. And this is where the little bit something new, a little bit something old that I mentioned a moment ago comes in. We took cards that have never appeared in the old original Magic card frame, and we put them in that frame and put them in this set. So, the first Time Spiral set had 121 reprints from Magic's history, things like Tormod's Crypt and Spitting Slug and Dragonstorm. Those were cool. That was the old card frame cards just showing up in modern day packs. Well, this time around, we are old card framatizing cards which have never been there before. So there's cards like Ninja of the Deep Hours and Path to Exile and Chalice of the Void that all show up in the old frame. And I don't know, I get shivers down my spine looking at some of these. I've been playing for a long time. I know you've been playing for even longer than I have, Barry. And looking at these just makes me so happy.
Now this will be the first of Wizards remastered sets to come out on paper, but these sets have been coming out online on MTGO since 2015 with Tempest Remastered as a remastered brand. And even more recently on Arena, we've had Kaladesh and Amonkhet come out. Why the decision to finally do a physical release, and why did it take 6 years after Tempest Remastered on MTGO?
Yeah, it's such an interesting story because our timelines are always so weird, like the order that we work on things in. So, Tempest Remastered happened a long time ago. We tried it as an experiment for Magic Online. It did okay, but it didn't blow anyone's socks off, so we kind of just left it at that one set. Then we were looking for a new product idea, and I've heard for a long time about how players would love to play with old sets again. And something I've been thinking about a lot is like we spend so much time making these awesome draft experiences, right? Like people talk about, I love Innistrad, I love Rise of the Eldrazi, all these different draft formats. But once they're gone, most players will never play them again, right? It's like you missed your opportunity, you will never get to draft it. That's a whole part of the language of Magic you can't experience. So I was like, what if we, did the remaster treatment to a set basically? And I pitched ideas to people, and ultimately I went with Time Spiral because it's my favorite block and it's also one of my favorite draft formats. A fun fact about it, by the way, is just because our timelines are so weird, like I was saying a moment ago, we started working on this set before we had even concepted of any of the Arena remastered sets. So,
Really?
but because those are our Arena, they can come out on a much faster timeline and so on and so forth. So even though they beat us to the punch with the tabletop version, we were going to be the next one after Tempest Remastered. So I think that's just a really fun way to show off like how our timelines can be so different sometimes, because you have to design a set and print it and get the art and all that kind of stuff. So
You mentioned timelines. How long have you and the crew been working on this?
let's see. I think we've been working on Time Spiral Remastered since 2018. I think that sounds about right. Maybe it's very early 2019, but somewhere in there.
Oh, so a couple years then.
Yeah, a couple of years. And even though it is all reprints, there isn't a new card in here mechanically. There are new looking cards, but no literal new cards. There's still a lot of careful curation that goes into picking out the cards, exploring the draft format, coming up with the list of those old frame reprints, which takes a lot of very careful curation to get right. And so far, I think players have been pretty happy with the cards that we've selected. And it's also it's also something that we just wanted to really take the time to get right, because Time Spiral is such an important set for so many of us. So yeah, it just took a while. And then, you have to produce it and edit it, and, if you get new art commissions back and all that kind of stuff too. So.
Makes sense. I'm curious though, with the popularity of another all reprint set, mystery boosters have anything to do with getting the green light to publish Time Spiral Remastered as an all reprint set?
So, once again, our timelines are weird. Mystery Booster wasn't out by the time we finished this, or finalized doing this. So it wasn't like necessarily one thing leading to the other, but Time Spiral Remastered was being worked on as Mystery Booster came out. And so seeing the excitement of the old card frame cards in Mystery Booster, those reprints that were in there, I think really helped push to be like, yes, people are going to love this. Because, today, it's always so easy to look at what reality is. Say like, yes, of course this was obvious. And today you're reading the internet and you're reading Twitter and Reddit, and everyone is stoked about the old card frame cards, right? It's like, why would you not do this? But internally, there was a lot of debate from people about if anyone would want these, right? A lot of people were like, they're old card frame. They don't look as good as they do these days, right? And there's different factions inside Wizards that think different things. I have been a big proponent of the old card frame for a very long time. I've wanted us to do it for a while. And I was really one of the big people pushing for it. And I am so glad that we made it happen, because so many people are excited about it now. So anyway, with Mystery Booster, seeing those be a success, I think really helped win over any of the people who were like still a little bit on the fence about it, to make sure that this could happen in the way that it did.
Almost like a case study going, see, it can work.
Yeah, and our timelines are so long, once again, that anytime we get any kind of new data, it's always really great for us to be able to go back and look at old things that way. So, or things that we're working on that way. So, yeah, that was a nice little moment for sure.
So you've kind of touched upon this a little bit, but how different is it coming up with a set of already existing cards versus a set that sure has a few reprints, but has all new cards?
Yeah, it's a totally different world, and they're both fun for different reasons, right? When you're making a new set from scratch, or even a set that is mixed reprints and new cards, you can really count on new cards to fill your holes, right? Oh, we're going to have this mechanical theme, and we make some new cards for that. We'll make up new rares and mythic rares, whatever the case is. But I personally really enjoy, I love making new cards, don't get me wrong. But in addition to that, I really love the occasional master set or set like this, Time Spiral Remastered, because it gives you almost a puzzle to solve, right? It's like, here are all of your pieces. There's a finite number of pieces you can choose from. Using these pieces, how you make the best experience. And in this case, it is an extraordinarily finite number of pieces, because the 121 card bonus sheet aside, you only have cards in these 3 sets to choose from, and you want to make it feel like the original draft format felt. So, there's a lot of very careful design work that's done there. And then the picking up of the bonus sheet cards was an additional fun little layer on top of that. So it's a very different kind of feeling as a designer, but it really does feel like a puzzle. And there's a lot of research on what cards players like. For example, with the bonus sheet cards, I did a ton of time just looking at deck lists, asking around on Twitter, asking friends, hey, if you could have cards in your deck, old card frame, what would you choose, right? And so it's totally different than what you would do necessarily for a brand new set.
I think I remember you tweeting that out, actually maybe a year and a half ago, and I think I told you Goblin Grenade, not knowing why you were asking. But as for the actual cards in the main part of the set, what can players expect? Is it going to be it's an equal assortment of the cards from the Blocks 3 sets? I do know, we know there's going to be, and you've already mentioned this, I'm just going to use the old term, these time shifted cards, similar to those found in the original Time Spiral. But what about the plane shift cards from Planar Chaos, or the future shifted cards from Future Sight?
Yeah, so those color shifted cards from Planar Chaos, Future Sight cards, those show up in the set. They don't use the original borders. They use the current modern border. So everything that's from Time Spiral uses the current border. And then it's just those 121 time shifted cards. We did talk about a lot of different implementations, everything from a Frame-a-Palooza implementation where nothing had normal frames and it was just all wacky frames all the time. All the way to, we even did talk about no different frames, or everything had modern frames. And eventually we decided the best thing to do would be to focus on one frame, a frame that we knew people had a lot of memories of, that the most existed of. Because for example, with the Planar Chaos and the Future Sight frames, you can't really build a deck that is all those frames. They're just not there's not going to happen. But if we were to do the old card frame, there's a number of, say, legacy decks that we could give them the pieces that they need to be able to, finally make their deck all or mostly old card framed. So that's kind of why we ultimately settled there. And then there was discussions about if we should do it with any of the Time Spiral block cards, but it really felt like let's make it like the original set, because the gag the first time around in Time Spiral was that set was normal and there was the bonus sheet that was old, and we thought, hey, let's do the same thing this time around. And remember that we didn't know how popular this would be, right? It's once again very easy to say you should make the whole set old card frame now, knowing that everyone loves it. But if there's any nervousness about that at the time, then yeah, you're a little more concerned. The good news for everyone out there who wants more old card frame cards is that after seeing the response here, I think it is extraordinarily likely you will see more old card frame cards in the future. I would like that. I certainly would like that to be the case. And I think after this response, it would be a surprise if we didn't do it again.
Maybe you guys will surprise us all and do a whole set, just one of the old card frames. Who knows? But about those, are you calling them time shifted cards again? What are you calling the bonus sheet cards this time around?
I think technically speaking, they're just called the bonus sheet. I'm going to call them time shifted cards though, because it feels right? That's what we call it back in Time
That's why I've been doing it,
and I like it.
Okay, well, about those time-shifted cards in the original Time Spiral set, they were one per pack, and they're one per pack again, I understand. And like you said, they were printed in the old card frame. The original assortment ranged from good playable cards like Gemstone Mine and Lord of Atlantis to, let's face it, novelties like Squire and Spitting Slug, which you mentioned earlier, Giant Oyster, another one. These new time-shifted cards, we're starting to see what they are. They're coming out bit by bit now. But are they going to be running the gamut? Kind of looks that way.
Yeah, so it's going to be running the gamut, but it's a little more focused than the first time. So the original, we took some of the same philosophies as the original one, but kind of crafted it for what we want for this set. And I'll explain what I mean. So in original Time Spiral, the way the time shifted sheet was put together is they were really meant to be cards that you would look at and they would be memorable. It wasn't just like 121 amazing cards or anything like that, but cards that if you were playing at the time, you would find cards on that sheet that you had fond memories of. Whether you had played for a few years and you saw a card like Mystic Snake and you were like, oh man, I have great memories of, Apocalypse, or you saw a card like Goblin Snowman. You're like, I remember seeing this, all the way back in Ice Age and really smiling at it, right? So it really, really had a wide range there. With this time around with Time Spiral Remastered, we wanted to do that where we could capture a wide range of feelings, right? So there's cards on here, from ancillary products. We saw Palace Jailer, for example, from Conspiracy 2. We've seen stuff as far back as Mirrodin. There's a lot of newer stuff in here as well. But with that said, we did know this was maybe our one shot at making 121 cards in the old card frame. So we didn't want a ton of misses because, if this was our one shot, we should try and do it right. So there is a wide range of cards from, previous commons, uncommons, rares, and mythics. But there are a lot more on the hit side than Time Spiral was, right? There's a few cards on this sheet that are more in the goofy range. For example, Relentless Rats. But that's still a card that some people want to build decks with and get really excited by, where Squire is just nothing, right? I'd say that they're the card in this set, which is probably the least appealing. There will still be people who definitely want to own it. We did span the range, but it's a different range than Time Spiral spanned.
Okay. Now, so far, all the time-shifted cards have been revealed are from newer sets. It sounds like all of them are going to be from the newer sets, nothing from Scourge or before?
Right. So once again, we only had 121 cards to get in the old card frame for the first time. And given that, we thought we should give all the preference to the cards which never had the chance to appear, right? Because if you want to play old card frame Urzatron, well, that exists. You can go find that. You can go get your Antiquities versions. But if you want to play old card frame Ponder, it just doesn't exist. You can't find it. So given that we had 121 slots to work with, we wanted to be very economical about how we use them. And once again, I don't think it's impossible that we wouldn't do something like that at a point in the future. But for this release in particular, it's only cards released in Mirrodin Forward that appear here.
Okay, so how will the success or failure of Time Spiral Remastered affect other similar sets from being released in paper form, whether new remastered sets or previously made ones that are available only digitally, such as the ones that came out on Arena and MTGO?
Yeah, I mean, something I would like to do. I mean, I talked a few minutes ago about how I think that being able to play old draft experience is really important as part of the language of Magic. And it is my hope that this set does very well so that we can continue to do more remastered sets. I would love to do them at a decent regularity. I mean, it feels like a thing that we can create and get out there to the public that allows people to play with fan favorite sets like Innistrad or Rise of the Eldrazi, which are two that I always go back to as just very popular draft formats. But also Invasion is one. You know, like there's a lot of ones that I think could be discussed. So I would love for it to be successful so we can do more in that vein. That's one axis of the success. Whereas if it doesn't do well, probably won't be doing more remastered sets. The other big axis for me is the old card frame discussion, because I would love for us to do more with that frame. And I think that, I mean, we'll see when the rubber hits the road in a couple of weeks, but it seems like from where I'm sitting right now, that argument is already getting pretty closed in my book, that players really love these frames and that we should do more stuff with them. Those are kind of the two big things I'm looking for. And then as far as Arena goes, it's kind of running on its own path to make its remastered sets to build up its older backlist card pool. So I don't know that this will impact it one way or another. This set is not on Arena, and it's partially due to how complex the set is. Time Spiral is known for being a very complicated, very wonky set. And with so many mechanics to code in, it didn't really work out for Arena this time around. But in the future, if we did more remastered sets, I could see wanting to sync those up. So that's like maybe the one place where I could see it impacting Arena. But on the whole, they're kind of going to keep, remastering their own way and just slowly remaster backwards, I think. That's my hunch.
Well, I remember on a Drive to Work podcast, Maro's podcast, Mark Rosewater, that he said, I'm going off memory, I'm definitely paraphrasing here, that one of the concerns with Time Spiral when they were originally developing it way back when was just how many, the vast number of different abilities, both new and old, because not only do you have new ones like Suspend and what have you, but you also had Flanking, and you had all the Evergreens, and you had buyback, and you had cantrips, and all that stuff. Was that a concern bringing Time Spiral Remastered into existence? Do we include all of these abilities? Do we select a few? How did you guys attack that?
Yeah, I mean, maybe Mystery Booster aside, I haven't counted, but I think Mystery Booster aside, this set, Time Spiral block has the most mechanics of any set or any block by a long shot. I think it's somewhere in maybe the 70+ range.
Wow.
Especially by the time you get into counting all the future sites one of mechanics like Frenzy and Poisonous and Gravestorm. Like there's a very long list. So, for this product, we talked about a lot of ways to approach it. What we ultimately thought was important is this was a set for people who have been playing for a little while and want to experience Time Spiral, or players who played back with Time Spiral and want to play it again. So from that perspective, we didn't go and say we wanted to cut anything out, right? It wasn't like, okay, we have a new goal of having to hit these mechanic thresholds or, cutting this stuff out. So we left our minds very open to whatever it is that we wanted to do. Now, as we started digging into it, we pretty quickly found that there were a lot of cards with just, that had one mechanic somewhere that we could just chop out because they weren't needed for the set. The Frenzy slivers of the world is an example I like to use of like a sliver with Frenzy, and it's like the one card with Frenzy. And yeah, that card just ends up by the wayside. So the number of mechanics got whittled down as we whittled 3 sets down into one. But we didn't try and ratchet down the complexity or try and ratchet down the mechanics intentionally otherwise, because to me, that is part of the set. That's what you sign up for when you're playing Time Spiral. You sign up for a bunch of mechanics and a bit of chaos.
Okay, a bit of chaos. It kind of was, if I remember correctly. Gavin, is there anything else you really want to say about Time Spiral Remastered, or anything within 5 degrees thereof?
Well, one thing I would really say is, I was talking a moment ago about how the reactions to this set will really gauge what we can do going forward. So I welcome your feedback, and I think it's worth saying that this set exists because of you. Like the reason why this set is here is because I've heard from players for so long. We want the old card frame. We want old draft experiences again. And without those two things, I doubt the set would be sitting in your hands or on a game store shelf right now. So your feedback is always incredibly important. And when it comes to the future of sets like this, I would love to know what you think about card frames. I'd love to know what blocks you'd love to see remastered next. Would you like to see other kinds of card frames? Would you like an all future site frame set? I don't know. Please, feel free to let me know. And you can always reach out to me on Twitter or on my YouTube channel, Good Morning Magic. And I am more than happy to read through whatever you send. So otherwise, I just hope you enjoyed the set. And, It's one of my favorite blocks of all time. So whether you've played it before or never tried it, I hope you have a blast.
Well, Gavin, thank you very much for joining us. Time Spiral Remastered is due out March 19 at your local gaming stores, big box stores as well there, Gavin?
I don't know off the top of my head, especially with COVID, how everything's being distributed. So I don't want to speak to anything I'm not sure about, but it's definitely out on the 19th and you can go out and find it around.
And if we sometimes somehow want to see Urza's block remastered, we just need to let you know, huh?
Yeah, just send me some messages. Fallen Empires Remastered. This is your shot, man. Fallen Empires Remastered. Let's make it happen.
Maybe we'll just take all the 8-card packs, little Homelands, little Fallen Empires, and just mush them all together. It'll be a mess, but I'll love it anyway.
Perfect. All right. Or Ice Age Remastered, whatever you want to do.
Well, you might be onto something there, Ice Age Remastered. I might be down for that. But Gavin, thank you very much for your time. Time Spiral Remastered coming out March 19. For Magic Untapped, I'm Barry White.